Hey, what's going on out there, world? It's your boy Tommy on the spot. It is very late. It is a little before 1 o'clock in the morning. Actually, after 1 o'clock in the morning here on the East Coast. But I did recently return from my trip to WWE Evolution. And it's just been a crazy, crazy time here in the world of professional wrestling. A crazy evening from a number of perspectives. Obviously, the WWE Evolution pay-per-view being a really big deal. And so I wanted to talk with you guys about that. And I also wanted to chat with you guys about everything going on in the world of professional wrestling in general, because it wasn't only about WWE Evolution, but I will obviously, that's going to be a major focus of the show. So I wanted to talk with you guys about that. It was great talking with you guys during the show, by the way. It was really cool. If you guys follow me along on Twitter, at WatchWrestlePod or at Tommy on the Spot, I was tweeting live from the show. I was showing off a couple of different of the kind of the pictures and different things like that of the different shirts and different things to that extent. So it was a really cool show. I'll be honest, I had a really great time. Always great to go back to the as I always say, the Nassau Coliseum. I'll always put it over because of how much it means to me. The first venue in which I had kind of been at before, and the first venue that I went to my first WWE pay-per-view at. I graduated high school in the building, so it means a lot to me, and it was cool to go there with my wife, my brother-in-law tonight. Everyone was really into it, and we were excited about it, man. So it was good to do that. I'm going to pull up the live chat here. You guys can join me on the live chat if you're watching along on Twitter, or if you're watching along on YouTube in general. Join the live chat. Let me know what you thought about the show, and let me know kind of what it is that you guys want to talk about. If you guys have a thought about something, I'll shout you out on the air, and we'll have a good time. So WWE Evolution tonight. Honestly, got to the venue around 6:30-ish. And it was packed, and I know a lot of people were saying, "Boy, the tickets for the ticket sales for the show were not good." If that was the case, I did not see that at all. It was packed. It seemed like there wasn't an empty seat in the building, and not only that, but it really, really felt, if I'm being honest, that everyone was really into it. Like, I'm telling you, it felt like a huge event feel. Swig of seltzer there. You know how you go to a show sometimes you can just feel like, people are excited, but like it's almost like they're going through the motions. That was not the case for this at all. I was at the Rumble this year and SummerSlam this year, and the feelings in the building were similar to those shows, if not even a little bit more. There was someone here on Twitter. I'll try to pull him up and give him a shout out because he's the one who said it, and I'll mention it to you guys there. But there was let me just find that. Give the right credit where it is due. At Janjasawa said, comes across great on TV like it's a takeover crowd. And being live at Takeover in Philadelphia and Brooklyn this year, I can tell you that's 100% correct. It did feel like that. It felt like people were stoked. It felt like people were really excited. And it felt like this was a huge deal. Outside, they were selling merchandise for the event. They had people out there pumping the merchandise sales. People were excited about that, and people were really into it. So it was nice to see. And not only that, they also had like some sort of carnival deal set up. I'm not even sure what the deal was with it, but they had like a couple of rides and everything. It was awesome. It was fun, and everyone was really having a good time with it. A couple of people were talking about that there was a red carpet deal before the show. I'm not sure where this was. But I think it was somewhere outside around the building there of the Nassau Veterans Memorial Coliseum. And before the show started, actually on the WWE Now, which is a show that WWE does on their YouTube channel, and a lot of fun. If you follow along on a big pay-per-view or any pay-per-view, they've been doing these WWE Now specials, and I think they're actually test running them. The rumor is for the upper tier of the WWE network that seems to be coming out, kind of that premium tier that they've been toying with and they've been messing with and throwing the idea around. And one of the deals is to bring that WWE Now show to the network. And it's a great deal. Kathy Kelly does a good job with it. And the other guy, Mike Rome, they both do a good job with it. Earlier today, they put out a little interview with Stephanie MCmahon live from the venue about the show. She had said something about how there's definitely going to be more women's shows, all women's pay-per-views in the future, and seems something that she's really kind of passionate about. But I think those specials are great. They're really good hype pieces for the show to get you into them. So if you are somebody who is really excited about the show, or maybe you're kind of on the edge, check those specials out. They're really a lot of fun. And then later on, so we got to the venue around 6, I'd say around 6:30, a little later than normal. Normally we like to walk around and check out all the merch and put these up there pretty early over on at Watch WrestlePod on the Twitter. But we were able to get into the venue. We were able to have some fun. And what I thought was particularly cool about it was they did the NXT UK title match on the show before it started. Now, I don't know if this was, I'm assuming this was on the pre-show, live on the pre-show, but it very well may not have been. Sometimes they actually tape that pre-show about an hour and a half or 2 hours prior. So they like to get the footage of people kind of funneling in and have that kind of backdrop. And then if they don't have any reason to broadcast the title match, they won't necessarily do it. So I don't know if this was on the pre-show. I'm assuming it was, but it was Rhea Ripley defending the NXT UK Women's Championship against Dakota Kai. Fun little match. Again, like every single thing that was going on the show, people were really into. People were really excited. There was a lot of energy in that building, and it was really fun. So it was really good stuff. Rhea Ripley's a badass. I love Dakota Kai, so I was really excited to see both of them get an opportunity to be on that show. It was a shame it wasn't on the main show proper, especially because the show ended around 10:20, 10:30-ish, so they had a little bit of extra time if they wanted to squeeze another match in. Show itself started out, they had that are really cool. Now, one thing you might have noticed is people might have been saying what, or they would have been complaining. It seems like the left side of the arena speakers were completely out. So when the musical act was out there to kind of get things started, Nikki Reese, and there were people, you couldn't hear anything on our side. The mics kept going out. Everything on the left side of the building kept going out. So you only heard the echo from the right side of the building. Made things at times really hard to hear. I believe this was something that was on the Nassau Coliseum side of things, but it was difficult, and you know the crowd was growing restless with that because it continued literally throughout the entire show. Later on, down the road, kind of then as that show started out, great idea to bring out Trish and Lita first. At first I was kind of like, that's a little weird. But at the end of the day, it was great because, that nostalgia, they got that pop going. Everyone was really excited about that. I know there was like a small botch during the match with Alicia Fox that people have kind of been given some trouble with. That stuff happens. I mean, that's what pro wrestling is all about. Growing up as a kid, I always used to get really annoyed at the "you fucked up" chants that people would do at independent shows. Because in regular sport, when you watch UFC, you watch MMA, a lot of times people attempt moves and they don't work out, or things don't work out as great as they should. You just kind of roll with the punches and see how it goes from there. So it is what it is. If people screw up, they screw up. I think it was Alicia was supposed to make the change there, and they kind of it was like a longer 2 count than it should have been. That's made sense. They wanted to have Trish and Lita get their stuff in. I personally was really nervous because I thought Lita really didn't look as good, as crisp on the moonsault at the Royal Rumble, but tonight she looked friggin' awesome on it. She nailed it. One of the best moonsaults she's done potentially ever, and it was great to see Trish and Lita get a win. Nice feel-good story to get things moving in the right direction, and a really good way to get the crowd amped up and ready to go. Next up on the show was the Battle Royal, and this might have been one of my favorite Battle Royals, honestly. It was one of these deals where they did a great job in really profiling everyone. And I'll say this, going into this show, there was a lot of people who were dressed in different cosplays. You had your Nikki Bella cosplay, you had your Alicia Fox cosplay. My wife went as a Ronda Rousey cosplay, and there were also a number of Carmella cosplays. Carmella was over as all heck during this entire show. People were into the dance break thing. They had a really cool Carmella's dance break shirt they were selling on the outside. People are really into that, and I loved it. I thought it's done a great job in kind of extending the career of R-Truth. They can keep that going with the Truth TV and the dance break thing for as long as they want to, and it could really put another 5 to 10 years on R-Truth's career. So I love that, and I think it was great to see a lot of different things from Carmella, and it was great to see her get her. But the entire Battle Royal did a good job profiling everyone. Even the iconic, even if it was just something as small as an entrance. If you remember the WrestleMania 25 Battle Royal where everyone came out during Kid Rock's song, there were people brought in for that Miss Diva Battle Royal, whatever it was, that you blinked, you missed them, had no idea they were even in the match. And so now it was great that they were able to at least do every single entrance, get everyone at least a couple minutes of airtime. Naomi got to do her entrance, which is always fun to see live. Always a lot of fun. They were able to profile all the legends. And it was nice to see every Hall of Famer be introduced as a Hall of Famer. Always good to see Molly Holly. Always good to see Ivory, Kelly, Tori Wilson, who was actually saved for the last one, which I thought was a little odd. And Alundra Blaze. That was really cool to see Alundra Blaze in there and Ivory in there. Both those women are in their 50s, and they just look fantastic and look great. Alundra Blaze didn't look like she even aged when she came out, and she had that whole entrance, that whole entire attire there. Obviously, these women have known about this for a long time. They looked fantastic, and it was great to see them in the ring and doing their thing. Yeah, so that was about Royal. I thought that it did a good job profiling everyone. The Iconics, awesome stuff. You can see it coming from a mile away, but they delivered it, and that's how they should have done it. Protects them because everyone had to team up to eliminate them and got a lot of heat on them, and honestly, a lot of people were really excited to see them doing their whole promo before the match itself started. Next up, they did a deal in there where they had Carmella do her dance break, the aforementioned dance break. I think Ivory even threw in a Bronco Buster. I will say, of all the women who had returned, I thought that Ivory was all the way. Ivory was in there till close to the end, so they were kind of building her up as a story there. That maybe she had a potential to win it. And also, I thought Michelle McCool, man. Every time I see Michelle McCool, she looked great. She stays in unbelievable shape, and she looks really good every time I see her. In the end, Nia Jax won, and it was cool. It was a scary-looking moment there when she threw Zelina Vega over the top. I really hope Zelina Vega's okay. She landed really, really hard on there. And I thought it would have been actually really funny to see the Zelina Vega jump in there and kind of win the entire Battle Royal by tossing both Nia and Ember. I think the crowd loved Nia. Nia is super over with the crowd. She probably got the biggest pop of anyone in the entire match. But with that said, I thought it would have been cool personally to see Ember Moon get the win. Someone a little bit different. We've seen Nia Jax already in a match with Ronda, but we didn't get a conclusive victor. If you remember, that's when Alexa Bliss showed up and utilized the Money in the Bank briefcase and did so in a way in which she kind of ruined the match. So this kind of now can set up for that. They can lead with that and get that going throughout the remainder of the night, and basically can bring that match back now, where they want a main event. You have a match at Survivor Series or a Rumble that can do something until they eventually lead to where I think they're going to go for WrestleMania. Next up on the show, the finals of the Mae Young Classic. I told you guys this morning I did think Toni Storm was going to win that match, and she did. Really strong match, and Toni Storm is a total star, man. This lady is only 23 years old. She's super young. She's got everything. She's got great charisma. She's great in the ring. She's good promo. People were really into her. People were doing the Aussie, and people were really into it. So it was great to see her get the win. Really nice, by the way, that not only did Triple H and Stephanie come out with the flowers, but they brought Sarah D'Amato out with her. For those who don't know who Sarah D'Amato is, she's a trainer, I think the assistant head coach down in the Performance Center. She is the former Sarah Del Rey from Ring of Honor, and it was good to see her out there with the girls. And Toni Storm looked like this meant so much to her, and that she was super stoked. And you just love to see that emotion out there, and it was good stuff. One moment I completely forgot to mention, and I shouldn't have, so I just want to circle back to the Battle Royal for a sec. The moment there where Nia Jax and Tamina kind of looking at each other, about to come blows to blows, and then they both kind of dip back into that, like the Roman Reigns type deal. That was really cool. It was great to see them there. They seem to be thinking of Roman, as all of us are throughout the show, and good little homage there to him. So I thought that was a really nice moment as well. And honestly, Tamina looked like a stud throughout the entire thing. She was right there until the end before they had the little showdown between Nia and Ember Moon. So good to see Tamina back in action. All right, moving right along, the 6-woman tag match. Honestly, I like this match, but I felt for them. It was a really tough spot right before the 3 title matches that were forthcoming. A lot of people, after seeing the Mae Young Classic finals, people were into the Mae Young Classic. And then when that match ended, it felt like a lot of people did go to use the restroom. But I will say all 6 of those women worked really hard. It started out kind of like a match you kind of thought was going to be like a short little match, and ended up being really good. They all busted their ass, and they were obviously happy to have that showcase. And, even though I thought the Riot Squad would have benefited more from the victory, people were really into seeing Sasha Banks get the win, and Bayley and Natalya et al. My brother-in-law made a funny comment. He had said something to the extent of, do you remember a couple of months ago when everyone was just inexplicably booing Bayley and she was getting unbelievable levels of heat for virtually no reason? I'm glad that ended. Speaking of people in the crowd making comments, I have to be completely honest. This felt like the type of show where you didn't need to be a douche. There are certain times it's cool to be a douche. I've mentioned on the Watchalong Wrestling podcast going to SummerSlam 2007 live and cheering on the Great Khali in the middle of his match with Batista, and cheering on King Booker in the middle of Triple H's big emotional return. But this really wasn't the show to do it, and there were fans that were there who just seemed hell-bent to get a chant going for everybody who all the women were dating, or all of the women were married to. There were Undertaker chants, John Cena chants. There were even chants for the War Raiders when the girl from the Riot, Sarah Logan, came out. So leave that stuff at home. There were folks chanting for puppies. There were folks. I mean, it was ridiculous. Folks chanting, "We want AJ Styles." It was really, really silly, and there was just no place for it. It was just annoying, and you got to know your audience if you're going there. I feel like you're going to an NXT show, you want to do that type of stuff. People will be into it. People will laugh. If you're going to, I feel like, a Raw the night after a pay-per-view, everyone realizes at that point. I mean, like Raw the night after Mania and Raw the night after SummerSlam. People realize that that might be the venue where you want to express yourself and kind of do your own thing. You don't really necessarily want to do that at the first women's pay-per-view. It's just not time, not the venue. Just my thought on it, though. But for certainly people in my section, it was endless, and some guy the whole show kept trying to start a Chris Benoit chant, and I don't get it. I don't understand. Maybe it passes me by at this point in my life. Next up, though, was the NXT Women's Championship match. I thought after this match it was the best match of the night. It ended up not being the best match of the night, but that's only because it was a blowaway match immediately following. Shayna Baszler against Kairi Sane. I love this match. I know a lot of people hated the match because of the finish and the 4 horsewomen getting involved. For those of you who don't know, those are the 4 horsewomen from, obviously, UFC, the original 4 horsewomen, sans Ronda Rousey, who was obviously in a match, a little bit the next match, so she was not involved, but she was in the main event. But they helped Shayna Baszler win the NXT Championship. She becomes the first ever 2-time NXT Women's Champion. Shayna Baszler, I love her. I think she's great. I think she brings a certain degree of legitimacy that very few bring. I think she's a total package. Even when she was in UFC, she'd always had that charisma, always brought along the, when she'd bring the guitar, and she kind of knew how to deal with that. She comes out of the Josh Barnett camp, who's also now heavily into the world of pro wrestling. And, you can see she's a total package. She's going to be great for WWE. She generates an unbelievable amount of heat. And I just thought these guys put on a crazy match. Kairi Sane is badass. She's a great wrestler. And I loved it. So definitely, if you didn't get a chance to check that one out, go back and check that out. But it was not the match of the night, because I thought immediately following they had the great, unbelievable, probably the best women's match of the night, potentially the best WWE proper match of the year. Charlotte Flair, Becky Lynch, last woman standing. This was unbelievable. Crowd was so into this. I understand why WWE made the main event of this show Ronda Rousey versus Nikki Bella. I really do. Ronda Rousey's biggest star in WWE, and Nikki Bella is probably number 2 in terms of mainstream stars that they have. And they want to have that for Total Bellas. They want to have that for Total Divas. They want ESPN in the morning to say the show ended with Ronda coming out and be bringing things up to that next level. So I get why Ronda and Nikki closed the show. That being said, Man, they could have really closed the show with Becky and Charlotte, and probably should have, because that match was unbelievable, and it was really hard to top. I mean, these guys just absolutely killed it. Crowd was 100% behind Becky. I don't know if these were signs that WWE handed out, but a number of folks in the crowd, I doubt it was signs WWE handed out, because WWE, I don't think, wants Becky to be the major babyface here. I think they more so want it to be somebody like, I think they want the crowd behind Charlotte more so than anyone else. But I will say that more so than Becky. But the crowd was solidly behind Becky. Everyone had these boo the woo signs. There was like a little section for Becky Lynch, boo the woo. And people, I mean, when Becky was introduced, it was like people were screaming for her. People were singing along to her theme song, just screaming every lyric to it, that, you know, whoa, to start things off. People loved the hell out of Becky Lynch. And she's well on her way to being that Stone Cold level type of, you know, she's a badass and she doesn't give a crap, but the crowd loves the hell out of her. And they just tore the house down. Crazy, crazy bumps. They brought out ladders. They brought out chairs. They took bumps onto piles of chairs. There was a EC Dub chant that I thought was kind of like, enough with EC Dub. But at the end of the day, it kind of made sense when people were, then Charlotte and Becky were throwing chairs at each other, throwing all these chairs into the ring. That was the match of the night. I wouldn't be surprised to hear people say that was the match of the year and potentially the best women's match WWE has ever put out there. It was just great. If you did not watch the Evolution show and you're going to watch one thing on the show, go back and watch that. There is a couple of moments where Becky thinks she has Charlotte down, and Charlotte gets up, and when she comes out of the wreckage of the chairs, I mean, I will say Charlotte was booed out of the building during portions of this evening. The crowd booed them. There's some people that are saying that the Bellas were going to get booed out of the building. Charlotte generated that amount of heat from the crowd that you would have thought, some people thought the Bellas would have. The crowd was all over her, man. But you know what? There was this moment where she comes out of the chairs and she just looks fantastic, and she looked totally beat up and like a total warrior. And Becky got like super scared. Great moment there. And she's running around the ring. She's smacking her with the kendo sticks. And this leads to an unbelievable bump where Charlotte got powerbombed off the apron through a table on the outside, and still tried to fight to get up for that 10 count, but was eventually counted out. This was really cool. I love that WWE put Becky over here. I think a lot of people, certainly in my section, were expecting Charlotte to get the win. So when Becky got the win, it was like, oh, damn. Well, shit, maybe they're going with Becky here. And at the end of the show, that last moment, Ronda Rousey and Becky Lynch were both seen as the two people who were the top people representing that women's division. They both held up the belts. They both clanked the belts together. It seemed like the thought was going to be Charlotte against Ronda at WrestleMania in the main event, but maybe they're transitioning now. Maybe they're going with Becky Lynch and seeing what they have and going with Becky Lynch and Ronda Rousey. And you've got to give WWE credit with that, because they don't have the best track record sometimes of going with the hot hand. Edge was super hot in 2006, and they didn't go with him. Even though he got the ratings through the roof, they didn't go with him. They went right back to John Cena, and it was Cena against Triple H one-on-one at WrestleMania 22. Daniel Bryan, when he was super over with the S chant, sure, they ended up going with him, but that was never in the cards. As a matter of fact, they tried to turn him heel and put him in the Wyatt family, if you remember. So it's cool to see that they're going with Becky Lynch, they're embracing this, and they're giving the crowd really what they want. And the crowd was so into Becky. It was something to be seen. This led to the main event, Ronda Rousey versus Nikki Bella. Crowd was 50-50, which was surprising to me. I really was expecting everyone to be into Ronda and just booing the Bellas out of the building. The Bellas have a really large and vocal fan base. And there's some reports that it's the younger ladies who are into them, which I don't think matters one way or another who's into them, but that ain't the case. There's a lot of people who love the Bellas. And I was a little bummed, by the way, for those who know me. You know, I love the Brie Bella Brie Mode theme song. Unfortunately, they didn't get a chance to show that tonight or play that theme. I was ready for it. I was excited. I thought she would get her own entrance. She didn't. We just got the you could look, but you can't touch. I really every Ronda match I've seen, I've expected it to be just destruction, just to see her come out and just totally destroy her opponent in 2-3 minutes, like she did in MMA, which was just a couple seconds in MMA. But it hasn't happened, and I think that it's good in a way, because I think tonight Ronda had some legitimate vulnerability, and even though that's not what you expect from Ronda Rousey, I think she's actually doing a really good job in selling. She's doing a good job in getting the crowd behind her. And honestly, Nikki Bella, say what you will about her, she's good in the ring. I mean, she had a couple of moves there. She hit the Alabama Slam, and then she hit the, I guess it's the new rack attack, so to speak. And in both those times, I thought she had her eyes. So I was like, man, this, people are going to be really upset on the internet, at least, if Nikki gets the win here to end the show. But instead, Ronda got up. And if you haven't seen it, WWE put up a little video on their YouTube, I think it was, where Nikki Bella was saying she was taking a break. Nikki's only been back for a couple months, so if she's taking a break, but I think that's kind of where Nikki's at in her career right now. She's somebody who's had a number of injuries, obviously had a very serious neck injury. So to see her in there, you know, going at it with Ronda Rousey and taking some legit abuse, hats off to her, hats off to both women. I thought the crowd was a little bit burnt at the end of the show, and rightfully so. When you see a killer match like Becky and Charlotte, it's really hard to top. That's why, again, I think if WWE were smart there, they basically could have ended with Becky and Charlotte, especially because it was such a blow-away match. But they wanted the happy moment. They wanted who they perceived to be the fan favorite, because they obviously, I think, want Charlotte to be the person who's embraced by the crowd. They wanted that from Ronda Rousey and have that moment where Ronda's holding up the belt, going around, and then they brought out all of the women, had Triple H doing the bow to him at the top, and you had maybe perhaps a little bit of foreshadowing with Becky and Ronda smashing the belts together and clanking them, and they're now your top of your two divisions there. So good to bring Becky up to that level. At first, from where I was sitting, because I was sitting like up towards the back, I had only seen Ronda on top of, like, on the side, like in the center of all the women, and I was like, oh damn, it should be Becky and Ronda, and it was. So I'm glad that they did that. So that was cool. One thing that was strange was Stephanie McMahon's announcement. Now, I don't know if this was a rumor or if I thought WWE had announced that Stephanie was going to make a big announcement on this show, and it didn't happen. There were a couple different things. So, number one, there were people. WWE was handing out signs to some folks in a specific section that said, "I want WWE Women's Tag Champs." So I thought that was obviously going to be the announcement. But when they were now making it that it was so historic, what my actual thought was, and this will generate some people not being too happy for me even mentioning this show, and I apologize, you know, we're trying to kind of tiptoe that line here. I really thought they were going to announce that there was going to be a women's title match at the Crown Jewel show. I thought that was going to be Stephanie's announcement. I thought that they were going to talk about how they had gotten Saudi Arabia to allow them to bring the woman over, and that was their whole point of going in the first place. And I would have maybe gotten some crazy reaction, and I'm thinking maybe that's why they didn't do it. That's just thought. I have no inside information. I can be completely off. You can think I'm a complete fool. If you do, I'm sorry. But that's really where I thought it was going to go. I thought maybe it was going to be that. I thought maybe it was also going to be that the women were the main event of WrestleMania. So there's a couple things that they were going to do. They ended up just not doing it. So it was weird. I don't know if they're holding off till Raw tomorrow, but it remains to be seen. But I definitely think women's tag team champions are coming down the pipeline at some point. But a great show overall, something I'll remember for the rest of my life. This is one of them that if this Watchalong Wrestling podcast thing continues, and it's coming back this week, don't worry. But if it's something that I'll be reviewing it years from now, sitting there talking about this memory that I had with my wife and with my brother-in-law at the first ever women's show, a huge moment for women's wrestling at my favorite venue in the entire world. I just loved the hell out of this show. I had a great time. It was a lot of fun. If you're looking at people who weren't there, who should have been, they did these really cool packages, by the way, where they kept interspersing like women talking about how important this WWE Evolution show was, how important, you know, kind of that the change movement for women was. And I thought that they really could have done they did a really good job in this. And I thought that one woman who deserved to be there was Eve Torres. There's a couple people from that era. Eve Torres, Caitlyn, who returned from the Mae Young Classic. Would have been great to have her on the show. These are women who can go. These are women who are really good. That were good in the ring during an era when women were not presented, maybe potentially the best. But at the same time, these were also women that I thought could have probably done a little bit, you know, it would have been nice to have them there and that part of the show. Another thing is the NXT women. I think that was severely lacking from the NXT women. It would have been really cool to have Nikki Cross in the Battle Royal. Really cool to see Bianca Belair in the Battle Royal. Give them a chance to maybe look good and say, hey, look what this next generation is kind of bringing forward here. And of course, the last one, and people need to kind of get off this pipe dream here. It's probably not happening, but AJ Lee was, people were chanting for it throughout the entire evening. That would have gotten the next level explosion pop had she come out. And the other one I was thinking about is Sable. Listen, I know a lot of people don't like Sable. People don't think Sable's great in the ring. Sable was right up there with Austin and The Rock and everyone else in the Attitude Era, and certainly has her place in WWE history that I feel like is sometimes overlooked. And she had a place to be there, so I thought she could have also been someone who came back and at least kind of gave a wave to the crowd or something to that extent. Before I get out of here, I wanted to also touch base and talk quickly about NXT and Evolve. For those of you guys who don't know, NXT has been sending a couple of their stars over to do Evolve wrestling shows. Evolve is an independent promotion headed by the former booker for Ring of Honor, Gabe Sapolsky. Gabe Sapolsky had a couple different, he basically had started his own independent promotion, Dragon Gate USA, in a promotion I've gone to a couple times, actually on our SummerSlam 2000, no, it's actually our, the Night of Champions 2009 podcast. I talk about attending the first ever Dragon Gate USA Pro Wrestling show. He had started that promotion, really didn't work out. I don't think it was financially feasible because he was bringing in all these guys from Japan. So from that, he spun it off to make it Evolve Wrestling. They've had really good shows. They've really established themselves as kind of like a really solid independent, so much so that they've established a relationship with NXT. They've had a couple of different stars go down to NXT from NXT to have a match on Evolve. Adam Cole's been on there recently. The Velveteen Dream's been on there recently. Excuse me. And tonight, Fabian Archer and the Street Profits actually competed for titles for Evolve and won them. That's right. So the Evolve Tag Team Champions right now are NXT's Street Profits, and the Evolve World Champion is Fabian Archer, also signed to NXT. Craziness. And so what does this mean? Does this mean these guys have been released? Not at all. There's a couple different things. Number one, I mentioned that upper tier that WWE seems to be rolling out for the WWE Network. One of the big things they're going to be doing with that is profiling some independent wrestling federations that they have relationships with. Impact Championship Wrestling, the Progress Wrestling from the UK. Those shows are probably going to be on the WWE Network. And another one I think that may eventually be on the WWE Network is also Evolve Wrestling. I think that could be where they're coming from. Another thing is about a couple of years ago, or at least a year or two ago, on the NXT conference calls, which are always great right before the NXT shows, Triple H does some media conference calls. I've been on one or two of them, and hearing him talk to people in the media, he's really open, and they're really insightful calls. If you get a chance to listen to them, they're out there. I'll do my best to share those with you guys the next time that I have access to them. And he used to talk about how the plan for NXT was to have, at one point, maybe to have two different NXTs. Maybe your NXT where it's specifically for television, and then potentially like a minor league NXT type deal. And I hate to use that because there's like minor league makes it feel less. But I think that was his point, was like for the guys who maybe are on the way up, but maybe there's just not enough time or space on the 1 hour of NXT television that they're at, they could be somewhere else where they're getting enough training, they're getting enough time in the ring, and being able to establish themselves. And I think that was his plan, was at some point to establish kind of a third brand aside from WWE and NXT. And I think instead of doing that, maybe he's going over now and working with Evolve. Now, again, this is all speculation, but that's what I think they're getting at here. I think that's why the NXT talent has been going down there to get some extra work. And also, I mean, Adam Cole and Velveteen Dream don't necessarily need extra work. They're just there to kind of help out Evolve. They have that great relationship with Gabe Sapolsky, put those guys on the show, and I'm telling you right now, I've gone to a couple of the Evolve shows because those guys have been there. And Evolve is great talent up and down the roster, but if you know Adam Cole's coming to your local town, you're going to try to go out of your way to see him. If you know that NXT talent's going to be there, you're going to go out of your way to see him. Guys like the Street Profits, I think they're fantastic. I think they were really getting over in NXT. but there just didn't seem like there was enough time on NXT television for them. They weren't in the tag title picture, and with only 1 hour of television each week, there's only so much they can do on NXT television. So put them down in Evolve, give them belts, build up Evolve, and also give them an opportunity to get more reps, get more in-ring work, and now being able to be champion. Now when they come back, NXT can say, hey, these are the current Evolve champions. It builds up Evolve. It also builds up the Street Profits as having legitimacy in that tag team division. Same thing with Fabian Archer. He's a guy I've seen down in NXT for a long time, and I've seen him on different shows, and he's looked good. I think there's just only so many names you have, especially right now. NXT is just clogged with tons and tons of talent up and down that roster. You have the Undisputed Era. You have Ricochet. You have Velveteen Dream, EC3, Lars Sullivan, Aleister Black, Johnny Gargano, Tommaso Ciampa, even Cassius Ohno. There's so many freaking guys down there that I'm sure I missed a few that I shouldn't have missed. That, I mean, there's just only so much you can do. And again, you have 1 hour of television a night, a week. So this gives them the opportunity. Now someone goes, oh shit, Fabian Archer from NXT is Evolve World Champ. That's really cool. So good for him. I'm happy for him. And good stuff, man. So that is going to do it for me. Tomorrow I have a really fun little video that I'm going to put up on the channel. If you guys like what you see, I strongly encourage you guys, make sure you smash that like button. Make sure you leave me a little bit of a comment, a like, subscribe. That would be great. And hope to see you guys on these little videos. Thanks so much for the folks who do chime in. I know we're real late, so I'll go ahead. I'll get out of here. But this is the type of wrestling show that I go to live. I've been to so many, but I still have those sometimes, man, where I show up, and I'm just happy to be afterwards. I'm amped up, and I'm ready to rock. So it's great to chat with you guys, and hope to do so again tomorrow. Keep your eyes out. I have a fun video I think you guys are going to kick out of. It's a short one, but I think you guys will enjoy it, and that'll be dropping in the middle of the day tomorrow. Till next time, everybody. This has been Tommy on the Spot. You be well.